Wisdom, as exemplified by King Solomon's choice to prioritize understanding over wealth or power, forms the cornerstone of life that transcends mere effort and achieves lasting success, according to principles outlined in the secret wisdom of Napoleon Hill, Laws of the Spirit and the Mind. The video argues that modern struggles, endless to-do lists, exhaustion, and a lingering sense of unfulfillment, stem not from a lack of hard work or ambition, but from a failure to operate within a structured mental system aligned with universal laws. Solomon's decision to ask for a discerning heart, rather than gold, fame, or authority, reveals a profound truth. True success is not the product of relentless action or meticulously crafted plans, but an inner alignment with the principles that govern life itself. This choice set Solomon apart, not because he was inherently superior, but because he recognized that understanding the laws of existence unlocks outcomes that effort alone cannot sustain. In a world where people are taught to chase results, set clear objectives, draft detailed strategies, and act without pause, the video emphasizes that these pursuits often lead to a maze with no exit. Without wisdom, effort becomes scattered, like building a house without a blueprint, where every brick laid lacks purpose and cohesion. Solomon's request for understanding was not a passive plea. It was a deliberate alignment with divine law, a recognition that life operates under an ordered system that rewards those who comprehend its mechanics. This wisdom is not about accumulating knowledge or mastering tactics, but about grasping the foundational principles that dictate why things happen as they do. For instance, modern individuals are often swept away by the current of goals and productivity hacks, believing that more action or better plans will lead to success. Yet, the video suggests that this approach is flawed because it overlooks the critical question: what law governs the outcomes you seek? Without this inquiry, efforts are like seeds sown on rocky soil, doomed to wither despite the labor invested. Solomon's story illustrates that when he asked for a discerning heart, he activated a reward system not through personal merit, but through alignment with a higher order. This alignment allowed him to govern justly, attract wealth, and command respect without chasing these outcomes directly. The video challenges viewers to reflect on their own lives. What questions are they asking daily? Are they merely running through tasks, or are they pausing to understand the principles guiding their actions? This distinction is crucial because without wisdom, even the hardest workers remain trapped in cycles of exhaustion and dissatisfaction. The feeling of being lost, the video argues, is not a personal failure, but a signal that one is disconnected from the order wisdom brings. It's not about lacking effort or opportunity, but about failing to build from the inside out. Solomon didn't start by setting financial goals or planning territorial expansions. He began with transformative requests for understanding, which became the foundation for all his achievements. This approach contrasts sharply with today's culture, where people are encouraged to act ceaselessly, set ambitious targets, and measure success by external metrics like wealth or status. The video posits that this external focus creates a mental system with no order, where efforts, no matter how intense, yield fleeting results. Wisdom, in contrast, provides structure, a mental framework that ensures actions are purposeful and sustainable. For example, the video describes how some individuals achieve great things with fewer steps, speaking less yet commanding greater influence because their minds operate according to law. They don't chase ghosts of elusive success. They build from a place of clarity and principle. This clarity is what modern people lack when they prioritize action over understanding, reacting emotionally or following chaotic information streams instead of filtering their thoughts through a disciplined system. Solomon's wisdom was not accidental. It was cultivated through a deliberate choice to prioritize inner law over external gain. This inner law is not a vague concept, but a practical system of thought that governs behavior, ensuring that every decision aligns with a greater truth. The video emphasizes that this alignment is what makes outcomes inevitable, not through luck or brute force, but through adherence to principles that govern life's rewards. For instance, when Solomon asked for discernment to judge rightly, he wasn't seeking cleverness. He was seeking the ability to align his decisions with justice and truth, which naturally attracted wealth, power, and respect. This principle applies universally. Success that lasts is not about doing more, but about understanding more. The video warns that without this understanding, people risk fighting against the laws of nature themselves, striving for success while ignoring the kind that endures. For example, Someone may desire financial freedom, but think constantly about lack, creating a contradictory mental signal that undermines their efforts. Similarly, a person may want to lead but react emotionally in conversations, eroding their credibility. These contradictions arise from a lack of inner structure, where thoughts and actions are not governed by a consistent set of laws. Solomon's success was sustainable because he built from the inside, ensuring his mind operated according to principles that filtered out chaos and amplified clarity. The video urges viewers to adopt a similar approach, starting not with what to do next, but with what to understand before acting. This shift in perspective is transformative because it moves the focus from external results to internal readiness. For instance, the video suggests that the exhaustion many feel is not due to overwork, but to a lack of strategic pause, a moment to reflect on what governs their behavior. Are they driven by emotion, reaction, or principle? Without this pause, efforts become wasted energy, like a builder constructing a tower without a foundation. Solomon's choice to prioritize wisdom ensured that his achievements were not random, but the natural result of a mind aligned with divine order. This order is not religious dogma, but a universal principle that rewards those who live by it. The video illustrates this through Solomon's ability to attract outcomes effortlessly. Kings sought his counsel, wealth flowed to him, and his kingdom flourished, not because he demanded these things, but because he understood the laws governing them. This understanding is what modern individuals must cultivate to escape the cycle of achieving, losing, and starting over with a more exhausted mind each time. The video stresses that this cycle is not a punishment, but a protective mechanism, delaying rewards until one is ready to sustain them. Solomon's discernment allowed him to hold what he received, ensuring that wealth and power did not become burdens. In contrast, those who demand reward without inner preparation often find that success brings unrest, as their minds lack the structure to maintain it. The video uses a metaphor of an invisible fracture in one's mental structure to explain this weariness, a sense that something is off, even when external circumstances seem fine. This fracture arises from operating without a clear system of laws, leaving one vulnerable to chaos and self-doubt. Solomon's choice to seek wisdom first was a rejection of randomness, a commitment to live by order rather than chance. The video encourages viewers to emulate this by asking daily, what law am I operating under? If the answer is unclear, that is the starting point for building a new mental system. This system is not about rigid rules, but about principles that guide thought and action, ensuring consistency and purpose. For example, instead of chasing financial freedom, one might ask, do I understand how to converse with money wisely and ethically? This question shifts the focus from outcome to readiness, ensuring that any wealth gained is sustainable. Similarly, instead of seeking recognition, one might ask, is my desire for recognition driven by ego or a spirit of service? These questions force introspection, revealing whether one's pursuits align with lasting principles or fleeting desires. The video emphasizes that this introspective process is not taught in schools, but is felt vividly in moments of disappointment, when one senses that something is misaligned. Solomon's wisdom was not about avoiding mistakes, but about learning from them, using discernment to navigate life's complexities. This discernment allowed him to govern a kingdom with stability, not through force, but through a mind disciplined by law. The video argues that modern individuals must adopt a similar discipline, not to become perfect, but to become deliberate builders of their lives. This involves rejecting urgency and patiently rebuilding one's inner foundation, starting with small, intentional habits like auditing thoughts daily or setting boundaries for emotional reactions. By doing so, one creates a mental empire that attracts rewards naturally, just as Solomon's wisdom attracted wealth and influence. The video concludes this point by urging viewers to stop demanding external results and start building internal order, recognizing that wisdom, not effort, is the root of all sustainable success. This inner order is not about suppressing desires, but about channeling them through a system that ensures they serve a higher purpose. Solomon's legacy is not a tale of luck, but a blueprint for living by law, where every thought, word, and action aligns with the principles that govern life's outcomes. By embracing this approach, individuals can escape the maze of blind effort and build a life that is not only successful, but deeply meaningful, reflecting the timeless truth that wisdom, not gold, is the foundation of all lasting achievement. The concept of inner order, as highlighted in the secret wisdom of Napoleon Hill, Laws of the Spirit and the Mind, underscores that the chaos in one's life, whether manifested as scattered efforts, persistent dissatisfaction, or a sense of being lost, stems not from external circumstances, but from a lack of a structured mental system governed by personal laws, a principle vividly illustrated by King Solomon's approach to life. The video argues that modern individuals often find themselves trapped in a cycle of relentless task endurance, chasing goals without pause, only feel unfulfilled because their actions lack the anchor of a disciplined internal framework. Solomon's success was not rooted in external achievements like wealth or territorial expansion, but in his deliberate choice to govern his thoughts, words, and actions through a system of inner law, ensuring that every decision aligned with principles that transcended fleeting emotions or impulsive reactions. This inner order is the antidote to the chaos that plagues those who operate without a clear mental structure, where thoughts run unchecked, emotions dictate responses, and actions lack coherence. The video emphasizes that without this internal governance, efforts become like a ship without a rudder, drifting aimlessly despite the energy expended. Solomon's request for a discerning heart was not a mere wish for wisdom, but a commitment to establish a mental system that filtered every thought and action through a lens of clarity and purpose, allowing him to rule with precision and attract outcomes naturally. In contrast, modern people are often taught to prioritize action, set goals, create plans, and push forward relentlessly, without being instructed to question the governing principles behind their pursuits. This oversight leads to a mental system with no order, where individuals react to external stimuli, such as societal pressures or emotional triggers, rather than proactively shaping their lives through deliberate principles. The video illustrates this through the metaphor of a man working tirelessly all year, only to see his efforts dissolve into random outcomes because his mindset lacks structure. Solomon, however, began with internal governance, ensuring that his mind operated according to a set of laws that prevented chaos from taking root. This approach is not about rigid control, but about creating a mental framework that prioritizes principle over emotion, law over reaction. For instance, the video points out that many people want financial freedom but are consumed by thoughts of lack, creating a contradictory mental signal that undermines their goals. Others seek leadership but falter by reacting emotionally in conversations, eroding their authority. These contradictions arise because their minds lack a disciplined court of thought, where ideas are vetted, doubts are interrogated, and emotions are regulated before they manifest as actions. Solomon's wisdom lay in his ability to rule within himself first, establishing a throne in his mind where only thoughts aligned with truth and justice were allowed to govern. This internal discipline made him trustworthy and dangerous in his clarity, as his decisions were not swayed by the storms of emotion or external chaos. The video urges viewers to adopt a similar approach, asking themselves daily, are my actions driven by emotion or principle? Am I reacting to the world or building according to a system? Without such a system, individuals risk living in a state of internal chaos, where every decision is a reaction to external pressures rather than a deliberate step toward a purposeful life. The video uses the analogy of a battlefield versus a throne to describe the mind. If you do not sit on the throne of your own thoughts, chaotic voices, impulsive emotions, old fears, or unexamined beliefs will take control, issuing commands that lead to a life not truly your own. Solomon's strength was his ability to maintain peace within, which translated into stability without, allowing him to govern a kingdom without resorting to force or threats. This inner order is not a natural trait, but a choice, cultivated through intentional habits like auditing one's thoughts daily, setting boundaries for emotional reactions, and establishing principles for speech and behavior. For example, the video suggests that instead of rushing into the world each morning, one should sit in stillness and decide which thoughts are allowed to enter, rejecting those that drain energy or sow doubt. Similarly, at night, one should review the day, identify which thoughts strengthen or weaken their resolve, and make a conscious decision to eliminate those that hinder progress. This practice mirrors Solomon's approach, who wrote Proverbs not to philosophize, but to restore order to a nation through the disciplined governance of his mind. The video emphasizes that this discipline is not about perfection, but about consistency, about choosing to live by a set of personal laws, even when no one is watching. These laws are not arbitrary rules, but a personal operating system that ensures thoughts, words, and actions align with a higher purpose. For instance, One might establish a law to wake up at a specific time regardless of the previous day's outcomes, or to remain silent when insulted unless a response serves constructive purpose. These small, intentional habits create a mental fortress that protects against distraction, discouragement, and the trivialities that derail most people. The video contrasts this with a modern tendency to live by borrowed energy, reacting to others' opinions, chasing trends, or adjusting to chaos without clear criteria, resulting in a life that feels like a temporary shelter vulnerable to external forces. Solomon's inner order allowed him to make decisions that were sharp, clear, and structured, enabling him to end wars with a single sentence or rebuild trust with one judgment, not because he spoke often, but because his words were rooted in a disciplined mind. The video encourages viewers to emulate this by writing down their own personal system, specifying daily habits like study time, communication boundaries, or standards for patience, and adhering to them regardless of mood or circumstance. This system is not glamorous, but essential, like the unseen foundation of a building that ensures stability in a storm. Without it, even the most talented individuals risk losing their achievements to chaos, as wealth becomes a source of anxiety, influence a burden of judgment, and freedom a path to confusion. The video cites historical figures like Henry Ford, who achieved greatness not through multitasking, but through a focused thought system that held firm against conflicting ideas, demonstrating that inner order is a key to making thoughts manifest into reality. Similarly, Thomas Edison's disciplined habits, scheduling his thinking and working methodically, created an environment where inspiration could thrive, proving that inner order is not about waiting for the perfect moment, but about creating it through structure. The video stresses that this structure is not about suppressing emotions, but about channeling them through a system that ensures they serve, rather than sabotage, one's goals. For example, when fear or doubt arises, a disciplined mind pauses to assess rather than react, ensuring that responses align with long-term principles rather than short-term impulses. This approach transforms a mind from a battlefield of competing thoughts into a throne of deliberate decision-making, where every choice reinforces a life of purpose and clarity. The video warns that without this inner order, individuals remain vulnerable to external chaos, chasing results without retaining them, loving deeply but hurting unconsciously, or earning wealth only to lose it through undisciplined spending. Solomon's legacy, as presented, is a testament to the power of living by law, where every word, thought, and action was a brick in an empire built from within. The video urges viewers to start small, writing down one principle, such as, "I only speak what builds," or "I do not react impulsively to criticism," and apply it daily until it becomes second nature. This practice, though simple, creates a ripple effect, reshaping how one interacts with the world, and ensuring that efforts are not scattered, but directed toward a coherent goal. The video concludes that inner order is not a luxury but a necessity, the invisible pillar that holds up every lasting achievement. By living with a personal code, individuals move from being victims of circumstance to architect of their lives, capable of rebuilding from chaos because they have a system that preserves every step forward. This system, built through daily commitment to principles over emotions, ensures that one's life reflects not randomness but the deliberate construction of a mind governed by law, where success is not a fleeting reward, but a faithful reflection of the order within. The principle of purposeful action, as articulated in The Secret Wisdom of Napoleon Hill, Laws of the Spirit and the Mind, asserts that true achievement stems not from the relentless pursuit of goals, but from aligning one's efforts with meaningful vision that transcends personal gain, a lesson vividly embodied in King Solomon's life, and echoed through historical figures like Henry Ford. The video argues that modern individuals, driven by societal pressures to amass wealth, achieve status, or secure freedom, often find themselves trapped in a cycle of emptiness because their goals lack a deeper purpose, resulting in accomplishments that feel hollow despite external success. Solomon's wisdom was not in chasing results, but in anchoring his actions to a purpose, governing justly, which naturally attracted wealth, power, and respect without the need for desperate striving. This contrasts sharply with contemporary obsession with outcomes, where people set ambitious targets like financial freedom or social influence without questioning why they seek these things, or whether the pursuits serve a greater good. The video emphasizes that without a purpose tied to something beyond ego, every achievement becomes a temporary patch for an underlying void, leading to a life where success fails to satisfy. For instance, Someone may earn millions but still feel unfulfilled if their wealth is driven by a need to escape childhood insecurities or prove worth to doubters, as these motivations are rooted in wounds rather than vision. The video uses Henry Ford example to illustrate purposeful action. Ford didn't build cars merely to become rich. He aimed to transform mobility, enabling ordinary workers to travel as freely as elite, and his wealth flowed as a natural consequence of this righteous mission. This principle suggests that a goal without a higher reason is like a tower without a foundation, impressive but unstable, prone to collapse under the weight of its own emptiness. Solomon's approach was similar. He didn't ask for wealth or power, but for wisdom to govern justly, aligning his actions with a purpose that served his people and honored divine order, which ensured his achievements were sustainable and meaningful. The video challenges viewers to pause and ask, why do I want to build? Not to parrot socially acceptable answers, but to uncover a truth that resonates deeply, one that might even unsettle with its honesty. Are you chasing wealth to soothe the fear of scarcity, seeking recognition to silence past critics, or pursuing power to feel less small in a judgmental world? These motivations, while human, point in the wrong direction, as they tie success to personal wounds rather than a vision that extends beyond the self. The video warns that if your purpose is to heal an insecurity, every accomplishment becomes a casualty of that wound. You may earn but not keep, reach but not enjoy, and live with persistent sense of lack despite having enough. This is not a failure of effort, but a failure of foundation, where goals are reactions to internal voids rather than intentions rooted in meaning. Solomon's purpose was to govern with justice, a mission that transcended personal gain and aligned with universal laws, making his wealth and influence inevitable rather than forced. The video urges viewers to redefine their goals in terms of meaning rather than numbers, asking, what am I building and why does it need to exist? This question shifts the focus from external metrics to internal clarity, ensuring that every action serves a purpose larger than oneself. For example, instead of wanting wealth for more options, one might seek it to create opportunity for others. Instead of craving power to be heard, one might pursue it to reform broken systems. This shift transforms achievements from fleeting rewards into lasting contributions, as they are tied to a vision that inspires beyond the individual. The video illustrates this through Ford's legacy. His wealth was not just personal gain, but a byproduct of dignifying the lives of workers, making his success a reflection of a purpose that serves society. Similarly, Solomon's kingdom flourished not because he chased prosperity, but because his actions were guided by a commitment to justice, ensuring that every decision reinforced a stable, harmonious order. The video warns that without this alignment, individuals risk self-sabotage, where boredom, surrender, or quiet neglect erode their achievements because they lack a reason to sustain them. For instance, someone may set a goal of earning $100 million, then $200 million, then $500 million, but no milestone brings fulfillment because the pursuit is driven by a need to avoid feeling left behind rather than to build something enduring. This relentless race, fueled by comparison and societal pressure, leads to exhaustion rather than inspiration, as it lacks a soul, a purpose that gives meaning to the effort. The video encourages viewers to write down their goals not as numerical targets, but as expressions of purpose, asking, does this goal make my spine straighten, my eyes brighten, my heart feel calmer? If it only adds pressure or competition, it's a sign to redirect, not accelerate, as true success comes from building something with soul, structure, and the power to inspire beyond one's lifetime. Solomon's legacy is a testament to this. He didn't cling tightly to wealth or power, yet he never lost them because his purpose was rooted in a higher order, ensuring that his achievements served a greater good. The video stresses that this purposeful action is not about abandoning ambition, but about channeling it through a vision that transcends ego, ensuring that what you build doesn't just fill a personal void, but extends something worthy to the world. For example, wanting assets to worry less is valid, but tying them to creating a healthy environment for loved ones gives them lasting value. Seeking power to change systems rather than to be heard ensures influence that endures. This approach requires brutal honesty, as the video urges viewers to confront the true motivations behind their desires, whether they stem from insecurity, validation, or a genuine call to serve. Solomon's wisdom was in asking, how do I gain the ability to judge fairly, rather than how do I gain my father's power? A question that positioned him as a steward of justice rather than a seeker of glory. This mindset made him a magnet for rewards, as King sought his counsel not because he demanded it, but because his purpose aligned with universal principles. The video suggests that modern individuals must adopt a similar mindset, rejecting the societal model of endless accumulation, and instead crafting a purpose that resonates with their deepest values. This purpose acts as a compass, guiding decisions and preventing the drift that occurs when actions lack intention. Without it, every new goal becomes a patch for an old emptiness, leading to a life of reaction rather than creation, where even major decisions carry a faint panic beneath a calm exterior. The video describes this as a silent collapse, more exhausting than financial poverty, because it questions one's core identity. Solomon avoided this by aligning his actions with a reason that transcended himself, ensuring that his wealth and power were tools for justice rather than ends in themselves. The video encourages viewers to emulate this by writing a clear, coherent answer to why they want to build, ensuring it transcends personal gain and connects to a broader impact. This exercise is not about moral superiority, but about operational clarity, as a purpose tied to meaning creates a foundation that withstands life's storms. For instance, if your goal is financial freedom to care for loved ones, every dollar earned becomes a brick in a structure that supports others, not just yourself. If your aim is to leave a mark, let it be one that inspires through service, not ego. The video warns that without this foundation, achievements become burdens, draining from within because they lack a reason to exist beyond the self. Solomon's wealth was not a mass of luxury, but a tool for stability, just as Ford's factories were not mere profit machines, but vehicles for dignity. This purposeful action requires discipline, as the video urges viewers to reject short-term comforts and societal pressures, choosing instead to build with intention, even when it feels slow or unseen. By doing so, one moves from a directionless race to a deliberate construction, where every effort contributes to a legacy that cannot be taken away. The video concludes that living richly is not about amassing wealth, but about living rightly, where every action is a step toward a purpose that aligns with the universal laws governing sustainable success. This alignment ensures that achievements are not just acquired but kept, not through force, but through a natural consequence of a life built with meaning, structure, and a commitment to something greater than oneself.